Good day, everyone. This is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and on the tabletop. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Dracula.
Hey now, everybody.
Hello, Drac. And let's head into our intensive news for this week.
Yeah. Gonna say we got a patch to talk about, so there's some news.
Yeah, update 35 patch 3, and looks like a sizable patch for it.
Yeah, surprisingly, there was a lot of stuff in this patch. I think, biggest thing was, remember last week when we talked about the Drow Darkfire nerf?
Yes, I see that it got from 1d6 to 1d8, so...
Yeah, it's kind of not really nerfed, but still nerfed now. It's still not as awesome as it was, but
it was OP
better.
before, right?
Oh yeah, it was way OP. Oh yeah, I will be the first to admit that it was crazy OP, but it was awesome. But yeah, it's actually not bad now. But yeah, Drow Darkfire now deals 1d8 damage per character level, and is now slightly faster to cast, and has a lowered spell point cost of 4 spell points. So, kind of a slightly less nerf of a nerf, I guess we'll call that. Still in the nerfy territory, but not so bad. They also fixed an issue where monks could sometimes fire melee abilities that were already on cooldown. And you are the resident monk among us, because I actually don't have a monk. So, did you notice to where you could actually do some melee abilities if they were on cooldown?
I had not noticed. Of course, there are so few melee abilities. Usually I'm just using the default punching.
Oh, okay.
And every time since half the time I try to use a melee ability, it says you don't have enough ki for it. So therefore, by the time I got enough ki, the cooldown's over anyway.
Well, that's probably very true. So yeah, so if you have a monk, apparently that is fixed now. Also, they did some work on some items. The specialized randomized items from the Stormhorns and Wayloon have now been updated. These items were incorrectly appearing with Mythic and Reaper bonuses.
Oh, how tragic.
Yeah, exactly. And they were also able to be deconstructed in Kenneth Crafting. They are no longer compatible with Kenneth Crafting. However, they also no longer drop with the Reaper and Mythic bonuses, which was not, I should say, working as intended. So I hope you enjoyed that while it lasted. Hand wraps now properly use increased haste bonuses. The Heroic Against the Slave Lords item crafting is now a little bit less expensive. The cost is now 20 ingredients rather than 125 ingredients. So, yeah, go ahead.
What do the two numbers stand for?
That's how many that you needed to get the item. So now you need less of the items to get it. Well, so it's still a grind. Yeah, but less of a grind. It's been a while since I looked at the Slave Lord stuff. I can't remember exactly what the two things that you needed were.
I guess because I rarely repeat dungeons
But see, now that they have decreased that, and they will also talk about later on in the patch notes, they've upped the drop rate on some of the stuff. I might have to go farm the Slave Lords, because that stuff you can craft out of there is pretty decent stuff, but it was so expensive to get, and it took forever to farm for it. But now that they reduced it, I might go farm Slave Lords.
I guess because I have a habit of trying to see how many different dungeons I could do, that by the time I do all the dungeons for a level, I've gotten to the next level, so I go into the next set of dungeons. Right,
yeah. Well, different play style, and plus I enjoy farming for things.
Right.
Look at how long it took him to get that stupid quiver. So, I kind of enjoy that, and especially if I like the content and like the dungeon, which Slave Lords I really like. So I might farm those because, as I mentioned, ingredient drop rates in Against the Slave Lords have been increased in chest and at every difficulty, with a slightly higher chance of more numerous amount per chest drop. So yes, and also when you complete Against the Slave Lords, you will now be offered more ingredients in the end reward list. So they are really making the Slave Lords grind just a little bit easier.
I was wondering, concerning the grinding for things and stuff like this, is this something that you're more likely to do if you have many past lives and therefore have more experience at each level that you need?
I would probably say if you're going to do it in like the Epic Elites, in that type of
in the Epic Elite. Oh, I forgot about the Epic levels.
Probably, I would say you would definitely benefit from having past lives, and you know.
Yeah, but talking. But they only dropped it for heroic level.
Right, correct. Yes, and that's what I was going to point out. This is only the heroic, though. So your epics are still the same drop rates. But yeah, I would say, you know, I don't want to make the blanket statement of this, but I would probably say you are correct in saying that the more past lives you have, of course, the better your character is going to be, and therefore the better your gear is going to be, and just you're going to get the benefits of your past lives. So the more of them you have behind you, I'm sure the more you would probably farm, because it's going to be easier to farm whatever content you're going to farm.
All right. Yeah, because as I said, I rarely repeat a dungeon. The one time I did it recently was with the Tower of Frost, which I did 3 times because I was trying to record it. Actually, 4 times because I did it with you afterwards.
Yeah, you did. And then plus now you have actually repeated dungeons before, because you did the challenge that you set up for yourself when you took every character class through.
Yeah, but that was all with different characters, so therefore I repeated the dungeon, but I didn't get intense because I wasn't pulling the resources.
I guess that's true. I guess you weren't actually going in there for farming it, and you didn't really care if you got drops too. So I guess you're right. That was the difference. But elsewhere in our update 35,
I have
3 notes. Oh, what? Go ahead. You got something else?
Yeah, no, the first thing in that thing is the thing about the teleport NPC. Which...
Yes, they finally, after all this time, have added a teleport NPC to Reaver's Reach. So if you're in Reaver's Reach and you want to get out, you don't have to slash death anymore. You can just pop right back to the marketplace. But pro tip though, as Pineleaf and I found out this week, it's a one-way trip. You can't get back easy.
Yeah.
You can leave Reaver's Reach, but you have to go the long way to get back to Reaver's Reach. So keep that in mind. And Dantel is saying, "Oh, I like the fly in there." I know. A lot of people did like fly or the slash death, and it just shocks me that after all this time, because Reaver's Reach was pretty much original game content. I mean, that came out. That came out like, I'm trying to think, maybe the game was out maybe 3 years, maybe something like that. So yeah. So now they get around to adding that, and Jerry, or also known as Cordovan, whichever you would like to call him, did say on, I think it was his weekly Wednesday live stream, that they kind of did that to kind of encourage people to run that content more, because that is content that does not get ran very much.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about maybe why later on. Spoiler alert.
How hard it was to get back.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for our week in gaming, what we thought of Reaver's Reach. But yes, stay tuned for that. Also, Haywire's Foundry, the experience for the optional objective, defeat the elementals, has been reduced. For some other optionals, it has been increased to make up for the difference. And that was just kind of weird. I'm not sure why they reduced one and then kind of increased others to make up. But hey.
Either A, they thought it was too easy, or B, they thought it was that it was out of balance with what the others were doing.
I haven't ran Haywire's Foundry for a long time. Well, how to run that again? The Riding the Storm Out raid has had his experience increased. I know on the forums people were complaining about there was not enough XP in that raid. So now there is more XP. So go do the raid and get the XP goodness. And characters that are on a raid timer can now talk to the quest giver and access the rune barter shop, but still not the raid because you're on a timer. But at least you can get to the rune barter shop. And that's really about it for that. There's some other little things you can go over on DDO Players and see the full patch notes, but those were the biggie things, I think.
Well, actually, one that I found useful was the fact that because when I ran the Slave Lords, I was wondering, because the first time I ran it with you, I did not remember what you had to do in order to get rid of the honey. So when I was running, I said, oh, water. So I got rid of the honey. Then trying to get my cleric to go in there. My cleric goes in there, and why is my cleric still got honey on him? And apparently they just fixed that finally.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that was in there. Yes, water will now properly remove the honey from pets and hirelings in the Secrets of the Slaver Stockade. And yeah, that was kind of funny because I couldn't figure out either. I'm like, why are the hirelings that they're going in the water, but why are they not getting the honey removed from them? But now it's fixed. So yay.
Hey, so let's head into the DDO Chronicle, issue 231, and that looks like a dragon.
We do have our dragon. Always good to see dragons because, hey, Dungeons and Dragons, so it makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
In the community spotlight section of our Chronicle this week, the Lava Divers over on Kyber have recorded their raid run-through of riding the storm out. So if you want to get some tips on how to do that raid, or you just want to watch the Lava Divers do it, and for those of you that don't know, that is the kin that Patrick from DDO Cast is in. So he is running that raid with them as well. So if you want to see that, click over and give it a watch. They do give some good tips for if you're ever going to run that raid. So click over and watch that awesome video.
All right. Now, when the lava divers do things, because for example, when the damsels do something, you expect something to be more sometimes on the silly side on occasion.
I'm going to say he's like choosing his words wisely here.
Yes. Right. Or I guess there are some YouTubers show you could almost think of it as a video on how not to do the dungeon.
Right.
Unless your intention is to have fun and not worry too much about what happens in the end.
Right. No, the lava divers are pretty serious, and they did it to actually complete it, and they did give some good tips. So yes. All right. Not a funny video at all. So watch it and learn. And then also in our community spotlight, we have Yachis123 has created a map showing the location of DDO Quest on Zendrick. So click over if you want to see a map of where all the quests take place. I cannot imagine how much time it took him to do this. This is just crazy to me that he actually created a map that will list where on the continent you are when you're running a dungeon. So if you ever thought about that, if you were ever curious about that, here's your answer.
All right. And that's quite a...
I just can't imagine how long it took him to do this. I really can't. This had to take forever to actually do this. But good on you for taking the time to do it.
He must have every single source book for Eberron.
I would think so, yeah. And then, in game you can kind of tell a little bit too if you kind of know the lore and you're kind of familiar with Zendrick. You can kind of tell where you are. But right. I think it definitely would help to have source books for sure. And then Dan Tell in the chat room is pointing out something that I guess I never paid attention to. He says the Sorrow Dusk screens also show some of that. I guess I'll have to pay attention next time I'm on Sorrow Dusk Isle and look at the splash screens, and apparently that shows some of it too. So splash screens and source books are your friend, apparently.
Which is rather strange that Sorrow Dusk goes show it, considering that Sorrow Dusk looks like on this tiny little island off of the continent.
Yeah, I just spent some time looking at this map, and I'm like, I cannot imagine how much time this dude took to do this, but it's awesome. So check it out. It's linked in the Chronicle this week. We also have some events in the event section. You're going to plan to attend this year's Gen Con in August. If you are, there is a DDO meetup that is in the works. So click over and you can let everybody know if you're going to attend, and you can find out all the information on where it's going to be held. Tentatively, right now, it is going to be Friday night, August the 18th, is when the DDO meetup is scheduled. And I'm just going to say it right now. That just so happens to be my birthday, and I'll be at Gen Con, so everybody needs to buy me a drink. That's all I'm saying. So if you're at the DDO meetup and you're listening to this right now, I expect a drink.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to be so drunk before the night is over.
I could imagine.
I'll just crawl back to the hotel room.
Now, I'm trying to think, is this the first time I got a shout out in the Chronicle?
I was going to ask, and I was just about to say, some dude named Pineleaf is running a Dragonborn in a new YouTube series, and I do believe this is the first time that you got a shout out. So congratulations, Pineleaf. You're famous. You're in the Chronicle.
Or is that infamous?
Could be. So yeah, and then everybody, seriously, watch Pineleaf's videos. They're awesome. And Pineleaf did not pay me to say this or anything, but I don't think he's getting enough views on his videos, because his videos are hilarious. He is so funny to me. I mean, I kind of see it because I play with him every week. But if you don't get the chance to play with him like I do, watch his videos and you'll see kind of little glimmers of what I see when I play with him. It's not quite as bad because I usually kind of troll him sometimes. So it's like fun to troll Pineleaf when you play with him. But watch his videos because he really doesn't get enough views. And he is doing his Dragonborn. And then if you do play Lotro or you're interested in Lotro, he does do a lot of Lotro videos as well. And what is your Pineleaf, or what is your channel on YouTube, Pineleaf? How can people find you?
I'll be at the Pineleaf Needles YouTube channel.
And just search Pineleaf Needles on YouTube, or look in the show notes, or look in the Chronicle. And then Dantel in our chat room is asking, what class is your Dragonborn? I'm considering TRing into one, but I don't know what's good.
Well, following my advice for what is optimal is probably not a good idea. I decided to choose the favorite soul mainly because I haven't really played a healing class, I don't think, too often in doing it. I did a couple of times when I was doing all the classes and seeing how I could get each of the classes up. So I obviously did a little bit of favorite souls then, but it's a class that I've generally avoided, and so I thought this would be a chance to do it. Maybe occasionally be a little light on the hirelings or something like this, so I can have my own source of healing in emergency or something like that. But it would not have been my first choice if I was going in there blindly, because I usually don't play healer classes. I usually play something like a warlock, an artificer, or something like that. But the reason why I chose the favorite soul over some of the others also is because favorite soul is a charisma-based class, and Dragonborn are good on the charisma side.
Yeah, indeed, and that is why my Dragonborn I'm running is a warlock.
Right. Because I've played so many warlocks, I've decided not to do. But I should remember that challenge I had last year in taking all of the races through warlocks in the temple.
Yep.
I guess I should do that with a Dragonborn.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Because that's the one. Because that's a new race that was added since, and I have not taken a Dragonborn through the temple yet. Though that may happen with my favorite soul soon, because I just got the level 4.
And Dragon Breath is awesome. I thought about what I need to do, though, actually. I have over on Caneth, I have a druid that it was a gnome I created that was a druid that was going to be a new wolflock. I'm thinking now I need to do a racial reincarnation, change that gnome into a dragonborn, and then I can have a dragon wolflock.
Yikes.
Yeah. How awesome would that be? I just thought of that. That has to happen. Ooh, that's going to be fun. Also, in the fan site news of the Chronicle, DDO Cast is starting up a new series on the podcast. Right now, they are talking about casual players. And the first episode of that series is about gear that you should have as a casual player. Listen to this episode. It was awesome. Then we got a shout out for our last episode, which was 125 last week. Ginger Spice is introducing the Ginger Spice Dragonborn project. See, there's Dragonborns everywhere.
Yep.
And then Even Note is trying life as a frequent soul stone in a new blog post. So check out what Even has to say about life as a frequent soul stone. And then, of course, we have our Chronicle comment of the week. And it is, which real-life actor, alive or not, would play your favorite character in a DDO movie about him or her?
Real-life actor to play my favorite character in... Okay, my favorite character in a DDO movie. So at first I had to come up with my favorite DDO character.
Right. So out of all your characters you have, who is your favorite and who would play that character in a movie? I knew this question was going to be hard for Pineley.
Yeah, because it's not as easy as it is in Motro and deciding which my favorite character is, because I still haven't perfectly come up with that answer yet. And so I would have to say then that let's go with my Dragonborn, simply because we've got this lovely lightning breath and all that stuff. And who would play this? Now, this is going to be a little bit on the sly side, but I will say the Geico Gecko.
Wow. Not what I was expecting, finally. Not at all. Wow. Okay. I think you just blew my mind, finally. Of course, the Geico Gecko? Really? Okay.
Well, okay. The Geico Gecko, well, that would be a little bit tough, seeing how the Geico Gecko is green and my Dragonborn is blue, but...
Well, and of course it did say which real-life actor, so... Yeah,
okay. Real-life actor. So, therefore, let's see if I could come up with something more serious, because I have no trouble coming up with what my favorite character is. I first have to decide which my favorite character is.
Yeah, see, and that's tough, too, because I like my Wolflock, but I like my Rogues, but I like my Rangers, too. So it's like, I like all my characters, but I would have to say that I would lean towards one of my Wolflocks, probably. And I'm going to shock nobody with my answer on who should play my Wolflock. And that would be...
yes, of course.
Felicia Day.
Yes.
Nobody is shocked at my answer. And if you are, shame on you. You don't know the podcast. So did we actually stump you on this question?
All right. How about, because as I said, first I want to get my favorite character. And let's say we take my Warlock that I'm running with you at the moment. And who would be perfect one to play it? Let's see, Warlock. I'm trying to... How about Bernadette Peters?
I could see that, since it's a gnome. That would work.
Because first time I saw her was on stage when she was playing the witch in Into the Woods.
I could see that. That's actually good casting, finally. I like it. Good answer. And then finally, in our Chronicle this week, we have our official screenshot of the week. And that is from Into the Deep, is operating a beautiful cavern in the 311th, that's hard to say, DDO screenshot of the week. And that is from the character Kani for that screenshot. So check over and check that out in the Chronicle. And that is it for our Chronicle this week.
Then let's head into our store sales, and anything that's exciting in here that you want to get your hand on?
Yeah, I see what you did there, Pine Name. And 25% off crafting essences, crafting experience elixirs, crafting success boosters, and collectible crates. So if you craft, I guess, yay, thumbs up. Not a crafter, so don't really care, but, you know. I'm sure there's some people out there that are spending tons of DDO points going, ooh, crafting essences is 25% off. But the free sample of the week is a Big B's red guiding hand. You will get 5 guiding hands when you use the coupon code red-handed. Love that coupon code. 1 per account. So as I always say, choose wisely.
All right, let's then head into our site screenshot of the week. And this is a much more, I would say, lovely scene from the point of view of an outdoorsy type person than the official shot is.
It is. The official one was kind of dark. Ours this week was pretty light and a awesome shot. This one is coming to us from Muskie Elon, and it is entitled A View from Outside the Evening Star Cavern. So if you take a look at it, you will see the awesome water effects. You'll see the watering. You'll see the entrance to the cavern. You'll see the trees. It's just an awesome shot. And I know I've said it before, but DDO does water awesomely, I think. So I love the effects that the water gets, especially if you're running on that DX11. I think the water effects are awesome, and this screenshot kind of shows that out. So thanks to Muskie Elon for sending this one in. If you have a screenshot you want to see us post up on the site and talk about on the podcast, you can send that to podcast@ddoplayers.com. Just include a character name and a little title that you have for it. If not, I'll make a title up. But that's podcast@ddoplayers.com, and you might see your screenshot on the site.
Very well, then let's head into the items that are coming in from the dungeon, and we'll begin with Tales of the Yawning Portal, where they have collected some very nice adventures, some very nice classic adventures, and brought them up to 5th edition.
They did. I really, really like this book. And I kind of hinted at it last week that I said, hey, I read Tales from the Yawning Portal, and it's going to be reviewed soon. And hey, look, the review is up over on DDOplayers.com. So check out the full review. But yes, Pine Leaf, you pretty much summed it up perfectly. This is a little different book than what we're used to getting from Wizards of the Coast. What they have done, they have taken 7 classic dungeons. And I use that term classic very loosely because there's a couple of these that I'm like, eh? But anyway. Well,
I noticed, though, they tried to have it so that you could fit it into a campaign because of where they're starting. Because Sunless Citadel, which was the first one that they released for the 3rd edition, is the first one in here because that's the first level dungeon.
Yep, and then we move into the Forges of Fury, which is the 3rd level dungeon. The Hidden Shrine of Tomachan is the 5th level dungeon. We have an 8th level dungeon, and of course it is the classic White Plume Mountain. And then we have Dead in Thay, which will cover 9th through 11th level. And a lot of people are not familiar with Dead in Thay. That is because Dead in Thay was actually, when they were playtesting the 5th edition of D&D, they were calling it D&D Next at the time. And this was part of that playtest, and it was a store exclusive. So if you had a Wizards Play Network store in your area, they were the only ones that had this Dead in Thay adventure. It has one of the most diabolical dungeons next to Tomb of Horrors ever.
Ouch!
Yeah, this dungeon in the end of Dead in Thay is crazy deadly. So a lot of people aren't too familiar with that, but it will cover 9th through 11th. And then we have the classic Against the Giants, is 11th level. And then, of course, we have, I think, the star of the show, Tomb of Horrors. And it's funny, they don't even give a level range for that. They just say only high-level characters will stand a chance of coming back alive.
The thing about Against the Giants, though, is that having Against the Giants leaves you with that cliffhanger at the end because you've got this big yawning portal into the Underdark that you get to at the end of the Fire Giants.
Exactly. And that is why a lot of people, and myself included in that, are leaning heavily towards we're going to get Undermountain in 5th edition at some point in the near future. Because, I mean, we have this whole book that the beginning of the book tells you a little bit about the Yawning portal, which, of course, is the inn that you can access the Undermountain because you have the well that you go down in. So they give you a little history of that. They don't give you a lot, which is one of my negatives with the book. I really wish they would have talked more about the Yawning portal because, you know, for God's sakes, it's the name of the book. But the star of the show is all the dungeons, and these are completely updated for 5th edition. And another nice thing they did is they give you the option, you know, they tell you you can drop these in as one-shots in your play sessions. Like if you don't have everybody that show up, but you have enough people to play, you can just put your campaign on hold that you're doing and just do these as one-shots. If you want to include these in your campaign, let's say like currently I'm running my friend and his 2 sons through the Storm Fumes Thunder storyline right now, and they give you the option that you can include these into your current campaign, and they give you hints on how to drop these into settings to where it'll make sense. So if you're doing like an Eberron campaign right now, they tell you, okay, this is the most logical place that you would find Tomb of Horrors in Eberron. Or if you're doing a Greyhawk campaign, you know, this is the most logical place you could drop in Dead and They, and it would make sense. So I liked how they did that. They didn't change the original dungeons too much. There's a couple changes here and there, but they pretty much stuck to the originals, and of course they just updated them. I think they did a great job. My biggest complaint out of all these dungeons is if you're familiar with any of these dungeons, I think Tomb of Horrors is the big one. You know, if you have ever played through Tomb of Horrors, there were handouts that you received from your DM at certain points.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
They don't include
handing them out.
Right. They don't include those in the book. Or they don't include like a place you can go on their website and download them as a PDF. I think Wizards missed the mark on that. Give us those handouts as a download at least. Yeah,
that's right. A PDF link would have been perfect for that.
And Dantel in the chat is saying he wanted to see pullout maps, and I wanted that too. I really wished we could get pullout maps. They did a great job at the artwork in the maps, but pullout maps would have been nice. And Dantel's also saying that he bought the book just purely for the nostalgia purposes. And that is a good key right there. If you remember running through these dungeons, you're going to love this book. And maybe if you've never ran through the dungeons, I would say probably don't read the book because you're going to spoil yourself. But maybe buy it for a DM that you have, and maybe he'll run you through these dungeons or something like that. But yeah, it's a great book. It's available now everywhere. And I should say that I think it has... If you're familiar with the 5th edition books, they always have these little funny little disclaimers at the beginning of the books. This one has the greatest Wizards of the Coast disclaimer ever.
Ooh.
And I will quote it. Do we really need a disclaimer to tell you that it's not our fault that your character died because you decided to climb down into a monster and trap-filled hole in the ground?
Yeah.
Best disclaimer ever. So yeah, check out Tales from the Yawning Portal is available everywhere now. You can find it at Amazon. You can find it in your friendly local game store. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. Even anywhere you can find Dungeons & Dragons stuff, you're going to find the new source book, Tales from the Yawning Portal. You can have 7 dungeons to try to kill your friends with.
All right. Now, earlier we were talking about how we would cast our favorite character into a D&D movie, but I guess the first thing you need is a D&D movie.
We do, and we might actually have maybe 2 D&D movies on the horizon.
2 of them? Hopefully they're better than the previous ones.
That's going to be easy to do. Well, anyway, don't get me started on the Wayne's D&D movies, please. Don't. Anyway, yes, Joe Manganiello, and you might be saying, that name kind of sounds familiar, but why do I know him? You might know him from some little movies like, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 3, Magic Mike, and Pee-wee's Big Holiday, but I think his best-known role, where most people will know him from, is he was Alcide the Werewolf in 7 seasons of True Blood. So if you've ever watched True Blood and you know who Alcide the Werewolf is, that would be Joe Manganiello. A lot of people don't realize he's quite the big geek, and he is a very hardcore Dungeons & Dragons player and fan. So much, in fact, he has written a script and is currently trying to get the movie made. And of course, it is a Dungeons and Dragons movie. And all this came
to it.
Yes, it does. All this came to light recently. He appeared over on MTV's Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, and they were talking about his love of D&D and how he's a geek. And he kind of talked about he's trying to angle to get a D&D movie made. And he has co-written a script with a playwright friend from Carnegie Mellon University. And he even went so far as he went and had a meeting with Wizards of the Coast. And he said, quote, "I had a 2-day creative summit with Wizards of the Coast. We had a 2-day summit about where the movie could go, or maybe a TV series, products, synergy, the whole deal." And then his vision for the movie, he says, obviously, there is going to be a spectacle. There's going to be dragons breathing fire and lightning. That's the biggest draw in Game of Thrones. But what makes a great fantasy superhero movie is the human aspect. It's got to be about something. We root for those characters in Game of Thrones. Fellowship of the Rings was about friendship and the undying love of your friends and doing anything for your friends. And I think that's something people can identify with. So I think when a movie is about something human and real emotionally, people want to go see it. And then if you get some dragons and breathing fire, I mean, hey, I'm in. So that's his vision. And then he kind of teased this a little more over on his Twitter account. He posted a picture, and it is of a screenplay. And the screenplay is entitled Dragons of the Autumn Twilight, based on the novel by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. So yes, the astute among you would know that is Dragonlance, folks. So apparently Joe Manganiello does not only want to make a D&D movie, he wants to make a Dragonlance D&D movie.
Yeah, and I would say that that's certainly a campaign that was very, very strong on its character.
Yes, it was.
Both the campaign and the novels and the novel series.
The only problem I see with this whole vision he has for this is the whole Dragonlance thing. Because if you're kind of familiar with the rights to Dragonlance, that's kind of just like a big mess right now.
Oh.
So I'm not sure how he's going to get the rights to actually do a Dragonlance movie, but we'll see.
Okay. I didn't know about that little detail.
But yeah, it's a very long, complicated issue that's why everybody is clamoring. Everybody wants Dragonlance 5e, and Wizards said, yeah, probably not going to happen. That's because the rights it's just a big cluster, right? About the rights.
If Wizards is having trouble getting rights to Dragonlance, good luck.
Yeah, it's a big mess. So we'll see. But I think it is encouraging that he did meet with Wizards about this, and Wizards is fully involved, and they're on board with it. And he was recently on the wonderful podcast, if you don't listen to it, Dragon Talk, which is the official Dungeons & Dragons podcast from Wizards of the Coast. And he talked a little bit about his love of D&D on there. So if you want to hear him talk about D&D, you can hear a little more. But yeah, so we might get another D&D movie if he can get it made. So he's trying.
Then let's head into what's coming in on the tabletop, and we'll begin with Fighting Fantasy Legends is coming from Nomad Games, and it's Steve Jackson and Ian. Which Steve Jackson?
Not the Steve Jackson you're thinking of.
I have two Steve Jacksons I'm thinking of.
Well,
so.
okay. Well, tell me what the Steve Jackson you're thinking of did, and I'll tell you if it's the right one.
Well, the first one I'm thinking of is the one from Wizardry.
It's the right Steve Jackson then.
Okay.
Yes. Do you remember the fighting fantasy books? I know we have talked about them before.
Yeah, I think we talked about them because I don't remember those because I had done the Wizardry series, but I didn't do the other series.
Right. It's the other series, and that's what this is based of. Of course, Nomad Games is the company that brought out the Talisman board game to digital. So if you're familiar with their work, they do great work. That Talisman game is an awesome rendition of the game. They want to do the same with fighting fantasy, and they, of course, have enlisted the help of authors Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone to help make this happen. And they are going to bring the City of Thieves, the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, and Citadel of Chaos all to the computer screen via a new card-based role-playing game. It is going to be set in the world of fighting fantasy. The players are going to explore the content, collecting cards, and powering up their dice. Tricky decisions lurk around every corner as the players will advance through the deck of cards themed to their location, and that will include cities, dungeons, and more. So look for this soon. And co-creator of the fighting fantasy books, Ian Livingstone, said, "I am delighted that Nomad Games has developed fighting fantasy legends. As fans of fighting fantasy, we know the Nomad team has gone the extra mile in making the game not only exciting, but as realistically authentic as possible. Exploring Port Blackstand, Firetop Mountain, and the Citadel will be a thrilling experience and a visual delight for all fighting fantasy fans, new and old." So look for this coming soon, later this year. It's going to come via Steam, also iOS and Android later on in the year. They're thinking probably summer.
And coming in from Trilobite Games, we have the seventh guest for the tabletop.
And a lot of people may or may not be familiar with Seventh Guest. It was a really old computer game way back in 1993. It sounds really old to say that was really old, but hey, that was a long time ago. Back in 1993, there was this thing called CD-ROM. It was this new thing.
I heard of them.
Yeah, this new fandangled technology that was awesome. Everybody wanted a CD-ROM for their computer. And if you actually had one, this was one of the first games ever to be released on CD. It was The Seventh Guest, and it was famous for its deadly puzzles that was in the game. So if you remember the game, you remember the rage that it induced, probably. And as I said in the little write-up I did about this over on DDO Players, this was the first computer game I ever rage quit. And I think this is where my disdain of puzzles comes to from this day. I still remember the puzzle that made me quit this game. I have never successfully completed this computer game because of a stupid puzzle. Well, hey, if you... Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just... Does that mean that you're not going to run over the Steam to get it, which is it's currently for $5.99 on Steam?
Actually, believe it or not, I have it on Steam. I just never.
Oh, that's right. It says 2 people already own this game: Brandon and Draculetta.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, it was part of some Humble Bundle like a long time ago. So I should actually install that and see how it plays on the computer. But anyway, the Seventh Guest is coming back as a board game. Players are going to explore the Staff Mansion. You're going to roll the magic dice, and you will have to solve the various brain teasers and puzzles all throughout the haunted house. The puzzles will include logic, trivia, and riddle conundrums, and they are also said to be 300 different puzzles in the game box compared to the PC games that only had 90. So 300 puzzles, Pine Leaf. That sounds like my worst nightmare.
Yeah, that's your worst nightmare.
In the world of the seventh guest of the board game, you will re-enter the mysterious and magical Stop Mansion, and of course, it's filled with those diabolical puzzles. You are going to test your wit and knowledge against your friends and your family. But as with all haunted houses, know that when you enter, it is at your own risk. The goal is to emerge with your sanity and your soul intact. The board game will remain true to the original award-winning computer game, and you are going to be able to play one of the roles of the sixth guest, and you are going to be in direct competition with the other guest. Starting from the foyer, you are going to be randomly assigned a destination in the mansion, and you must go roll the magic dice and there solve the mystery and the puzzle that awaits you. If you're the first of your friends to leave the mansion, arrive at the final destination, you will win. Of course, there is a final puzzle that you must solve there before you can do that. And then the puzzle dice, as I said, will range from logic puzzles to riddles and cryptic clues to trivia. You never know what you're going to get. The puzzles are going to be random every time, so that should help with the replayability on the game. And they do say some of the puzzles will be easy, and some are going to be real brain teasers, and good luck trying to solve them. So the game is currently up on Kickstarter now. As of this recording, there's 23 days to go. They are at 81% of their goal, and it looks like they're trending to actually hit the goal as it stands right now. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you remember the seventh guest, you remember the rage.
Remember fondly? Yes.
Yeah, fondly the rage-inducing anger that you got from it. You can have that now in board game form. So go over on Kickstarter and check it out. The link is in the article over on ddoplayers.com.
Now it's time for us to head into our week in gaming. And Drac, what were you doing when you weren't putting all these articles together?
I did do a lot of articles on the site this week. Good Lord. A lot of tabletop news this week. I broke out my rogue, which is my level 16 rogue. That's the one that I'm running with my friend who is playing a wizard. And we jumped into the harbor, and we did the Servants of the Overlord, the Spinner of Shadows, and Beyond the Rift. So now, of course, the astute among you will know we're in Evening Star now. So we did those quests to get over to Evening Star, and that was the first time he has ever ran those. And it was interesting to hear his reaction to the first time we got into the Underdark. And we survived successfully. We actually made it to Evening Star without too many deaths. So
without too many deaths.
So yeah, so next time we play, we're going to start on the Evening Star quest change. Not sure if we're going to do Wayloon or not, because I know Pyleaf refused to do Wayloon, so I'm not sure about my friend. I'll have to ask him about it and tell him the craziness that will ensue in Wayloon, so we'll see. That I think is the one place in DDO that Pyleaf hates the most, and that is Wayloon. And then my static group, of course, with Mithri, Sabajade, Rentapone, and Cad. We had a special guest this week, somebody named Lessa. Don't know who she is or how she got involved, but she just kind of showed up. So we decided to run the Runes of Gianthold. We finished up Gianthold. And of course, as the rule is, when you play with Sabajade, you have to play an Elite. So we did it all on Elite. We did a Cabal for one, and we did Gianthold Tour. Next week, when we play, I think the goal is we are going to do the Raid, actually. So that should be fun. Then the only other thing I did in game this week, I did with you. So we'll let you talk about that. So what did we do, Pineleaf, and what were you up to? Because it looks like you had a busy week too.
I'll begin with my monk, who's level 11, and I decided to do the Ruins of Threnol, the entire thing.
Wow, you did the whole thing? Congrats
the whole
to you.
Thing.
Congrats, Pineleaf. I'm surprised you actually stuck it out. I personally like Threnol, but that is a long, long question.
Yeah, long and the one comment that I put on here had to do with entering the gate chamber, where I thought it was evil of them to put a shrine just before a beholder, so that because after the beholder is when you're probably going to be needing the rest in order to get rid of those negative levels you're getting.
Death Ward is your friend, Pineleaf.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I did not have Death Ward available with me during this particular run. So the other one is there is this point where you have this bridge where you're supposed to hit, I presume, hit targets on the other side in order to bring down the bridge. I eventually found out because I'm a monk, I just could not hit the target on the other end. So I gave up and jumped the bridge instead. Jumped the gap instead, and they made it across that way.
Hey, that works.
Yeah, that way.
Bridges? Who needs stinking bridges?
Who needs bridges if you got to jump across the gap? I was surprised I was able to make that jump, and I guess because I'm playing a monk instead of some of my other characters, that was actually possible. And the other thing of note was the Threnal Arena, when you're doing that thing. Because I had forgotten exactly how it goes. I did the apprentice one. I says, okay, that seemed easy enough. Think is okay. The master, okay. Well, that didn't seem too bad. All right, Grandmaster. Beholders!
Not just one beholder. Not just two beholders. Yeah, that's, I think, my favorite quest out of that whole chain. I like that quest a lot.
Yeah, so I ran into those things, and I did get killed at one point, but I was rezzed by my cleric, and my cleric got killed before the end of it, but I did manage to, but I was still standing, I think, barely at the end of it, so I managed to get through all of that. And then I had to figure out, okay, is there a red shrine anywhere in this place? So, yeah, that was... After I did all of that, I then went to Delaris Graveyard and ran From Beyond the Grave. Now, they put in their average difficulty. Where in the world did they come up with that?
Oh, come on. That's not that hard of a quest.
Look, doing this solo when you've got these things, because when I'm trying to light up one of the pyres, halfway through, the mobs respawn and start hitting me.
Well, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the problem on it, is I think it's one of those as a recommended party or something like this, because in the end, I managed to eventually actually get the fires lit. Now, I didn't have my cleric with me because I stationed my cleric at the gate to keep the undead from overrunning the gate. Because I had to do it twice, because the first time I was taking my hireling with me, hoping to get that through faster, but yeah, the gate was smashed up in that case. In fact, the gate was smashed up in the same second I lit the fourth bonfire.
Oh, man.
And it's like, bonfire lit, but it's failed. The gate has been crashed.
Oh, God, that sucks.
So, therefore, yeah. So I had to do it again. But this time, I just decided, all right, I'll just have to take my chances, and hopefully I get those fires lit, and kept the cleric over at the gate, and the gate stayed in decent shape all throughout that time. And I eventually got it done, but yeah, I think average difficulty while soloing is a little bit of a stretch in my opinion, because it's very easy for respawns to come up and bash you on the head. And then with you, we were in Reaver's Refuge, as we said earlier. Then we went into Suwami Gardens, where we went to the Monastery of the Scorpion. I
am just trying to think of what to say here.
Yes. Now it's starting to come back to me. I think I tried to excise that from my mind. That puzzle.
Oh my God! What the hell was that crap? Oh my God! That worst quest in DDO ever. Never again will I set foot. Oh my God! I hate. Oh
yeah,
God!
That quest made Wayloon look fun. It's
bad. Just no.
Yeah.
Don't.
I don't think there was any. Well, I don't think there were any fair hints to that particular puzzle.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, yeah, because I actually had to go and look up some things, and I was kind of giving you little hints without giving you like the answer to it. And once you kind of figured it out, we were just like, "This is just stupid. This is dumb." And then that end fight is like, just don't, just no, don't, just All I can say is just no. Just don't.
Then we'll head into what I did on the tabletop. I played several rounds of Onirim, and what I want to do is I want to try out each of the optional, what they call expansions. I'll call them optional modules, and I want to try. Now, I had played some of them, but I had never played all of them, so I decided to run through all 7 of the options. So I played a game using each of them in turn. So I won a couple and I lost a couple here and there, and to see what they're really like, because I don't think I ever really got down and trying out each of them in turn. So I finally got around to doing that. And then I played a couple of rounds of Deep Space D6. And this time I decided to actually play with the boss, because all the times I played before, I played it with just the standard encounters and did not play with the optional boss. So this time I added the optional boss. And one time the first time I got was completely crushed at the beginning. The second time I actually won. And the third game I played, I was just getting close to the end, getting ready to unlock the boss, and boom, the dice betrayed me. And speaking of Felicia Day, I managed to see the preview to the first episode of the new season of MST3K, which is coming out this week on Netflix.
And what'd you think of it? I've heard mixed reviews on it so far. I've had a couple friends that have seen it, and they're kind of mixed on their opinion of it.
I really loved it. I thought it was very definitely MST3K.
It seems like that's you either love it or you hate it. At least that's the consensus I'm getting with my friends that have seen it. So yeah.
Oh, why are there some who are just purists with the?
Yes, very much so. Yes, very, very much so.
What, you mean that you can't have a gypsy coming out of the ceiling? You'd have to have her coming out of the floor instead?
Yep. And that's exactly what he said. Word for word, why he said, this is stupid because you can't do that. So, yeah.
What do you mean you can't do that?
I don't know. It's my friend. What are you going to do?
I mean, it sounds consistent with the characters. Okay. There was a safety hazard, so he moved the cables for Gypsy.
But yeah, so yeah, I guess I'll have to check it out. I'll be honest, I was never a big MST3K fan, but I got to watch it because Felicia Day's in it. It's just, I have to, yeah.
And there is a cameo at the beginning with Will Wheaton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nobody told me that.
Yeah.
The patron saint of all geeks is in it? Well, I guess I'll have to watch it now.
Well, do you have Netflix?
No, but my friends do. I have ways. I'll just put it that way.
I
have ways, Pine Leaf. I have ways.
You have ways. All right. Anyway, I believe that premieres on this Friday on the 14th, I believe, is the date of the premiere to it. But backers got a little bit of... Oh, it was nice to hear them make a few Kickstarter backer jokes in there. So, yeah. So, some of the quips, of course, are now up to date compared to some of the earlier MST3Ks. We currently have 23 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to help support DDO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you will find rewards, including a mention on the podcast of your choice, or even be a guest for an episode of DDO Players News. This week, we did not receive any emails, but if you'd like to send us one, you can send it to podcast@ddoplayers.com. And you can also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance @PlayersAlly, DDO Players @DDO Players, Dracula @Dracula_72, and Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needles. The Players Alliance has 4 live shows every Monday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News on the first and third Fridays of each month at 11 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have XP Quest. On the last Friday of each month, we have Lojo Academy After School. And on every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Lojo Players News. You can join us for our live shows at ddoplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. This is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to quest responsibly.